Hey, I'm Ron Drotos from keyboardimprov.com, and this is our 17th piano myth that we are exploding. We're getting beyond these preconceptions or conceptions that we're told or we tell ourselves on how we need to learn improvisation. So this myth isn't necessarily one that you hear spoken a lot. Nobody's going to tell you this myth, but it's highly implied in certain educational systems or maybe even the way we think about it because of all the information that's out there. And everybody's telling us you got to learn this, 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 this. So the myth says, quote, that you have to wait 20 years until you've learned everything before you can start developing your own individuality. Absolutely not true. Vocalists, for instance, don't have this problem as much as instrumentalists because a vocalist will just sing with the natural sound of their voice and they automatically sound different. Somebody calls you on the phone and if you know them, they don't often even have to say, you know, who they are. They say, hey, it's me, how you doing, right? And you know who they are because of the sound of their voice. Or, you know, you see somebody in the hallway at work or at school or an apartment building and you hear them coming down the hall and talking to somebody and you know who it is. Oh, that's my friend Jeff or whatever it is because you hear their voice, right? So a vocalist will start with individuality, right? Then they have to learn all the other things like the tunes, phrasing, scat singing if they do that or whatever. Instrumentalists, it's the other way around. Instrumentalist, like a 5-year-old vocalist, right? Typically will start singing like in preschool or around the house or in a religious service, right? And there's, you know, they're in a choir and they're singing Kumbaya, whatever they're singing, and they're automatically starting to express themselves through their voice. You know, 5, 6, 7-year-old trombonists, on the other hand, you know, the first lesson, it's like, okay, you're going to play a whole note, so you're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So there's not a lot of individuality there. It's like just trying to get the technique down. And then 20 years later, the trombonist or pianist or whatever has to start saying, okay, well, who am I? How do I want to play? And it's often a little too late by then. They're already just sort of part of the machine, right? So what can we do? Well, one of my favorite stories is that when the saxophonist Bob Wilber, soprano saxophonist, took a lesson with Sidney Bechet, the legendary New Orleans player, the first lesson that Wilber reported was that Bechet said, okay, we're going to play one note 50 different ways. We're going to play it, you know, bump, or hold it out, or very smooth, or whatever, or we'll slide into it, however we're going to do it. We could even do that on piano. There's one way. There's a different way. There's a third way. Or if we include grace notes, it's a different way, right? There's even kind of a different one, or as softly as possible, right? That's developing our individuality, which we can do right from the beginning, right as we're learning that Elton John solo or the Otis Spann blues solo or Bud Powell piano solo or just learning how to play Autumn Leaves or Billy Joel's Just the Way You Are. You know, we can start by finding what's the way I like to phrase this. We don't have to spend 20 years transcribing every John Coltrane solo before we can express ourselves individually. I've heard people actually say that they, you know, that, oh, you can't become, you know who you are until you've learned everything. Well, there's so much out there. But let's become more like vocalists and develop our own voice as we go along, right? Not just afterwards. We don't have to learn every Charlie Parker solo before we can play bebop the way we want to play bebop. We do it as we go along. It'll save you a lot of time. And when you finally get there after 20 years where you can play all that stuff, you'll already be ahead of the game because you'll have your own way of playing it. So this is the way all the great musicians have learned in the past, and it's not emphasized as much anymore. You know, it's sort of, they pay lip service to it. You know, you get a book or something, it says, okay, we have to do these 1,000 exercises, and they may say, oh, and by the way, develop your own voice, if they even say that. But it should be foremost and up front. Back in the day, my piano teacher, Billy Taylor, told me that in the 30s, 40s, 50s, if he asked an older musician like Art Tatum how to play something, Tatum would say, oh yeah, this is how I play it. But then if he heard Billy Taylor play it the same way he did on a gig, Art wouldn't show him anything else. He said, you have to make it your own right away, right from the beginning. You can't just copy me. You have to make it your own. So there you go. Develop your own voice. And if you're interested in video lessons to help you get there, check out my video course at keyboardimprov.com. Got over 300 lessons in rock, folk, jazz, blues, pop, you name it. Gets you from the very beginning all the way to the advanced stages. And they're constructed in a way to help you develop your voice and make it your own as you go along. Thanks for being here, and enjoy the journey.